Hi, Patricia.
Hi, Kathy.
Thanks for agreeing to be interviewed today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, I know you've successfully integrated technology into your courses.
I have.
All right, can you talk a little bit about how you did that?
Sure. What I did is I incorporated a COIL component.
Okay.
Do you know what COIL is?
No, tell
Okay.
us about COIL.
It is collaborative online international learning.
Okay.
So, explain it a little further. What it is you add a COIL component to an existing course that you already have. And the international part is that I have partnered with a professor in Mexico, in a university in Mexico.
Okay.
That course was electrical engineering. My course was Intro to Multicultural Studies. And together, we developed a COIL component.
So you developed and designed the course collaboratively
Correct.
with the instructor down in Mexico. How did you do
I
that?
flew down to Mexico and met with him and worked probably for about 3 days, going through all of the challenges and
Wow.
the things that we had to determine that would really allow us to have this COIL component.
Okay. And what were
The challenges.
What were some of those components that you were looking at? Like, how did you actually integrate the technology and meet your learning objectives?
Right, and the learning objectives were different too.
Okay.
So I graded mine and I assessed mine. That's one thing, and mine was pertinent to my class. And the same with the professor in Mexico. He had an objective for his class, and he did his own evaluation assessment.
And you were able to do it two completely different courses. You were able to get your objectives done using this technology?
Correct.
Tell me.
Which was Facebook. So the challenges are, can all of the students use Facebook? One,
Okay.
do they know Facebook? Two, will they commit to doing it?
Okay.
Because then your partner's relying on you. And other challenges are just if that's asynchronous learning. That was the asynchronous way to do it. We could have used synchronous learning through various other means of technology, but then you have to consider the time frame. We're talking about Mexico and U.S., so the classes did not run at the same time.
Right.
Other issues are the calendar year, right? They're different. Mexico starts earlier than we do. So how long are we going to do this international part, which was about 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. I'm fascinated that you were able to take a multiculturalism course, and what his was an engineering course?
Electronic engineering interfaces.
So what did your students do collaboratively that met objectives for both those courses?
Okay, so for me, my students were supposed to interview a partner, so
Okay.
initially in the class, but since
Okay.
we've had international collaboration with this technology, they received a partner in another country, in
Right.
Mexico. So they still had to do that same interview. That interview asked questions that involved issues on diversity and racism and sexism, gender,
Okay.
stereotypes, things of that nature. For the other professor's class, that was a little bit more challenging since it was, their class really was composed of students creating technology, like
Okay.
as far as computer games or electronic toys. So what he did is he had his students interview the U.S. students on what do Americans do with electronic waste.
Fascinating.
So that's how we.
That was really a creative way.
Yeah, you have to think out of the box.
Wow, that is really cool. What are, besides the time frame and the actual technology of Facebook, was there any other challenges? Did you have a language challenge?
Luckily, the students in Mexico did speak English,
Okay.
so we were able to communicate that way.
Okay. What would you say if I was going to tell you right now, okay, Patricia, I'm going to integrate technology into my course? What is a suggestion?
I would say the first advice is to keep it simple.
Okay.
You might have these big ideas to do a lot of different objectives, but probably the less is better, just to see that it works. And of course, depending on what technology you're going to use, you do have to make sure that your students have that technology available. Maybe some don't have a laptop. Maybe they're not familiar with the method that you're using,
Okay.
Facebook. Maybe they don't have a Facebook account. Maybe they're not permitted for various reasons to have an internet account or go on the internet for that matter.
So some privacy issues.
Definitely privacy issues, especially in Facebook when you're in the closed group. No one else can see it, but there is the issue that you can see that you're in a group. So that might be something that bothers somebody and they don't want that.
So when your students were working inside of Facebook, did they work all together as a large class, or were they broken down into small groups?
In Facebook, in the closed group, what you can do is create through the files, you can create smaller groups. So typically it would be a student partnered with a student from Mexico. However, one of the other challenges were that my class had more students. So some of the groups had three members.
And did the students have a preference? Did they?
I think the feedback, because we did conduct a survey at the end, I think that the feedback was that the partnering was better than the three.
The smaller group.
Right.
And so you say you did surveys to evaluate the learning. How did you manage that?
Well, we used SurveyMonkey, and we sent that to all of the students, the Mexican students and the students in the United States, and they responded to the survey. And most of the feedback was, I'm going to say all of the feedback was positive. Everybody seemed to enjoy it, wanted more, more communication. They learned a lot. They learned that maybe the preconceived stereotypes that they had were wrong. They learned that there were a lot of commonalities between the people themselves, as far as culture and all of the issues on racism, that they existed there just as they did here. So it was a great experience.
It sounds like your students learned a lot more than what they would have learned just being inside of a classroom. It sounds like a much more global experience.
Right. It took, I would say, the learning of multicultural studies to another dimension.
That sounds great. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing that.
Thanks for having me.